This is mysmp.com. This is the trading video from Archer Daniels Midland. This is a long trade from January 4th, 2008 on Friday. Just a quick little rundown from Friday's action in the overall market. It was extremely bearish, and the market had a pretty big gap down in the morning, which for day traders can, produce some challenges as far as your ability to identify plays because the market has moved so strongly in one direction so quickly. So your setups are kind of pushed to their limits. So you can't really get good range breakouts. So our ADM trade came in a little later in the day. Came in around close to 12, as you can see. And there was a swing high on ADM from the previous day at 46.30. So we were waiting for that to be tested. And that was pretty much our setup. As you can see here, had a pretty strong move, well above the 10-period EMA, and the overall structure was pretty solid. You had a lot of green, one red, a lot of green, one red. So the assumption here is that you're going to continue higher. All right, and of course we use the tape to confirm our entry. So without further ado, let's dig into the trade. Alright, so we're looking for a break of 46.30, right? So you're looking for 46.31. Okay, 46.31 came through here, but as you can see, it was kind of choppy, right? Really wasn't much action. And you have some decent red in here. Okay, now look at this. 46.32, you had some decent buys come in, so we took a long here. Now, as you can see, the sellers are still, very present in the stock. It's not a landslide. The buyers aren't just bidding this thing up. But we had decent volume on this bar here, which said to me that, they didn't want to push this down any further. You didn't break the previous bar's low, excuse me. And it came with a lot of volume, which tells me that the downside momentum, maybe it wasn't over, but it at least was taking a breather. So again, you have some, it's somewhat choppy in the tape. It's not really accelerating. And this is where, again, I'd like to make the conscious decision that, if a stock does not immediately take off, right, I don't necessarily have to close the trade, but I don't give it much room at all. I will keep my stop really close. Okay, so we fast forward a little bit. You can see here, it was trying to get back below 46.30, but it really couldn't do that. So the bulls were able to keep it above the breakout level. And here I was just basically waiting for a higher high to come in on this bar. As you can see, you have a lot of green coming in on the tape here, right? And now we're getting through the next 10-cent increment at 46.40. The funny thing about ADM is that 46.40, there was a lot of resistance. Normally you have resistance, 25, and for stocks above 30 bucks, generally 50-cent increments. So I was really looking for 46.50 to be the next kind of like psychological area where sellers would step in. But for some reason 46.40 appeared to be that level. So we just closed out half of the position. So we sold out 300 shares. 46.42, I believe. So what this did for us, we got long at 46.32. So this now will allow us to, open ourselves up to a little more risk and put our stop much lower from our entry. Again, this blue represents our entry, and this is our current stop position, which is well below the 10 EMA. As you see here, this red candle was definitely a knee-jerker, but you can see the overall structure was positive. And then look at the green coming in here on the tape. So you can see it's still keeping that upward momentum, and you're not making lower lows. Look, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, consistently. So you can tell that the overall structure is still bullish, even though we had this red candle here. And now look, we're taking out the 46.55, which I believe was this high in here, 46.55, 46.56, you know. And you have 4x2 buyers and sellers. So there are more buyers and sellers in the market currently, or at least showing that they want to, conduct a transaction. Volume, is decent on this little consolidation here. It didn't totally drop off, which says, what? Not only is the overall structure bullish, but, the people really are buying the stock. It's not just for show. Okay? And again, as you see, the 10-cent increments, right? We took out 40, we shot to 50, take out 50, now you're in the 60s. So our target here was really the next whole number, which is 47 bucks. So we were hoping for ADM to get to that level. You'll see in a second that it just didn't have it in itself to do that, but that was the end goal. And this is where our stop down here will give us the ability to kind of let the stock run a little bit without getting what I call the itch to sell. In a minute here, I think we're going to move the stop up to this level. This way, we're definitely break even in the trade, which is still below the 10 EMA. And you can see, tape's not great, but it still has an overall bullish tone. And you kind of want to be a little defensive about monitoring the tape too much after you've, kind of judged your entry, because it can create a lot of false signals, and also just the action itself here is a little busy, so it'll start to actually make you feel like you have to do something. So you kind of want to keep an eye on it just to make sure there aren't any huge orders coming in counter to the direction you're going in. That way you don't get caught in some massive reaction. But you don't want to monitor it too much after you're letting the second half of your position go, or the third, or however you need to divvy up your plays, because you can at times sabotage yourself. So again, just waiting for this to break 46.70. Tape is overall bullish. As you can see, it broke through 70, and we desperately wanted 47 because that would have been a pretty good trade, a profit on only 300 remaining shares. You can see we're doing well with only 300 shares. But ADM started to kind of reach here with these candles. You see how it has a wick here, another wick here. So, I kind of knew, I said, all right, well, if this thing can get below these lows, odds are there's some sort of correction coming in. Because remember, it has made higher lows from our entry. Always made higher lows every candle. So I knew that if it started to breach previous candles low, that the stock could be somewhat in trouble. So we put the stop a little below this green candle here. And I think it's going to take us out in a second, from what I can remember. Now, again, this is why it's important to remember you can have targets, but you can't just stay tied to targets, right? You can't just say, all right, well, I'm not selling or closing this position. I don't care what the stock does, because that's not smart investing. You have targets to kind of gauge where you want to get out, but if the climate changes, you must react on a dime. I think we're going to close out here in a second. That's pretty much it. So overall profit in this trade of 106 bucks. Have a good weekend. Take care.